Hi. I really have got no idea what day it is for you. Um, my today is some Wednesday, some random Wednesday in the summer. And this will be playing to you on a day that I'm on holiday. It's summer madness, honestly. But it's all right because this is, and I'm still going to call it a live stream. We are coming to you live from Consonance HQ up here in northern Scotland. And we are going to be looking at some wonderfully interesting things today, as usual. Let's take a look to see what the themes and topics and delights are that are in store for us today. And this is live stream number 15. Can you believe it? So 15 almost hours of this sort of thing most weeks. We are going to be looking at Task of the Week. And this week, the theme is contracts. There's so many things we could talk about. So we're going to pick off a few things to talk about with contracts. Definitely let me know if you want me to dive further at any point. But Task of the Week this week will be drafting a contract, looking to see about those tools within Consonance, how it can help you. Reporting Spotlight is going to be to do with burrowing into our contracts to see if we can draw out some interesting actionable insights. The correspondence that we have received, which prompted this whole thing, is to do with contracts and royalties in particular. We're going to be looking at what's new, which is also very front of mind at the moment. We're building out part of the system that we would like your input on. And it's very tangentially to do with contracts, but I'll show you later. Exciting stuff. And then a power move. What cool things can we do with our data to amaze and delight our colleagues and ourselves as well? So we'll have a look at all of this today. It's very exciting. Today we are calling Contract Day. Right, so task of the week, draft a contract. Let us hot-foot it over to Consonance, where I am logged in as our make-believe feline press, and we will look at the contract page for a particular work within Consonance, and we'll see if we can get Consonance to emit a useful PDF that contains our contractual terms and conditions that we can send off for scrutiny and signature. Let's go to Wintercats, see what we've got there. Like I say, this is an imaginary publisher and imaginary works, but just imagine, if you will, that we're not publishing until March 2026. It seems appropriate then that we may be still at contract stage if we're a little bit behind on things, but that's all right. So I'm going to take you to contracts and royalties and click on contracts. It's important to note that if we were looking at rights, as in rights that we're selling on to other third parties, or permissions, then that's got its separate area there. We're linking contracts and royalties together because one of the most important parts of data within a head contract between you and the author or agent is how much money they're going to receive as a percentage of your good efforts in selling copies of books. So we'll be articulating some of that today, and then maybe looking at the fruits of our labour another time. So let's click on contract and we go over to the contract page. Now let's just orient ourselves, see what's what. This page, hopefully there's some consistency across Consonance. So this page looks like a familiar piece. We have a scrolls by along the top, which is going to change depending on where we are in the page. We're going to be able to use that to jump to different parts of the page as well, but let's go back to the top. We've got a filter at the top of the page, and on any page that's got a filter, it can be super handy to start typing the bit that you're interested in, and that will whittle down the page to only the bits that you want to look at. And we're looking at the kind of normal pattern within Consonance, which is that we try to keep things as plain as possible until you sort of consent to be bombarded with more information. So this very first region here, it says the agreement, the name of the agreement is Winter Cats. We can add some more information, and that's how we know what it is. When we click to edit that, then we start to see a lot more form fields come up. We start to be able to whittle down the help text, but we're sort of engaged, and we've chosen to be seeing that level of detail. And you'll know that you know this is how all of the different pages within Consonance are structured. So in no particular order, let us scroll down this page so that you can feel out the size of it, because what we're hoping to do is put enough information onto this page so that when we click this button over here, download PDF, it gives us something that is a little less plain than a single page of A4 that says no clauses or contract template present. So let's put some information into the page so that we can start to see data emerging. Now, one of my favourite areas of this page is the second region down. It's delivery dates. And I say this for workflow reasons. This is potentially a little bit of a sidestep, but it's worth mentioning right now because it's so powerful. So I'm going to set up a delivery date. And remember, this is a contract. This is an agreement between the publisher and the author or agent. So we're asking them to commit to delivering the contents by, I don't know, next Friday seems about right. And then there's some other elements we could put in. We can add multiple different types of deliverable, and we can split how much. We can split how much of that sort of deliverable we require on this date. So you can build this up and be, complex or simple about it. Now that we've got a date in the contract, rather than the contract sort of staying on this, big flurry, get the contract done, sign everything, rather than it then going in a drawer and never referring to it again until we need to look at the expiry terms, or we need to renegotiate because a break clause has come up or something, we can use the information in this contract in meaningful ways to stay on track. And that is one of the benefits of keeping all of your data in your one version of the truth. Everything can talk to everything else. Really quickly, I'll show you what I mean. Contract, Winter Cats, we're on contract and royalties, but we're going to go to project management and to-dos. And I'm going to notice there are no to-dos here, but I can add one. Now, adding one at a time is the sort of thing you only do when you're demonstrating an app to somebody. You would load these in from a template. You would have this a lot more sort of scaled up. But let's say for a moment that we are going to send to line editor, and somebody must be responsible, and it's not going to be on a fixed date. It's not like it's a Christmas party and it needs to be on the 25th of December. No, it can be a relative due date, which means that all of these kind of living dates that exist in the system because you're including them in your Onyx, or you've included them in your contract, or you've communicated with your production team and you've committed that editorial is going to hand over to production on such and such a date, or we're going to send this to the printer on such and such a date. All of these dates can be used as kind of anchors to say, if this date is the 29th and my to-do is going to be 5 days before that, then now 5 months before that. Now I can say, well, this is now a relative to do, and it's just a really lovely way to kind of give you a bit of a payback for putting all of this data into the system. Features like this emerge, and it makes you think, wow, so because this is my one version of the truth, and because there is one content delivery date, I can trust it. I can anchor myself against it, and I can say, well, 5 months before that, I want to do a particular thing. So this is quite a silly one actually. So sign off acquisition, and you can think of all of the different things you can have relative to each other. But this can be really, really lovely. For another day, we can go through all of the different parts of this. There's blockers, there's reporting, there's being able to track what the date was, when this to-do was signed off. But we'll do that all another time. Of course, if you're anchoring your to-dos against things like publication dates, then if the unhappy time comes that the publication date has to shift, you don't have to manually update all of your to-dos. They're relative. The to-dos are relative to those dates. So when the date moves, the due date of the to-do changes. So it's really, that's not a happy day, because usually it's coming forwards and you haven't bought the paper and you need to rush around. But at least you don't have to manually change 1,500 dates as well. You can simply see that you're now late on everything. Thank you, Consonance. Right, so back to the contract page, so that we can see that putting data into the contract, obviously useful for sending the contract off to be signed, obviously useful for staying as the truth in your system of record, but also real live data that can be used to keep projects on track. Wonderful stuff. So there's a delivery date, lovely. There's some benefits that you can add in, gratis copies, for instance, and any reduced discounts and different sorts of settings that you may include in your contract to make it compelling. Licensed rights is an important element to add into your head contract. What are you licensing? You may feel that it's obvious. Well, we're licensing the right to publish this work for the full term of copyright in the all territories of the world in the following formats. But nothing is obvious unless it's written down in the contract. So if you think that you have got translation rights, translation rights, 11% seems mean. Then you have to write it down. If you think you've got film rights, definitely don't leave that to chance. You have to write it down. So this is the place to articulate what rights you are securing there, so that you can license them on later on. As I mentioned, rights and permissions is a completely different area of the business. But the rights team, as well as the editorial team, as well as the production team, need surety that the information they find in the contract is a sound basis for doing their work. So license rights are great. Then we have got some royalty specifiers, and this is a really simple arrangement. We've got a single paperback type of product here. And we're saying that in the home trade market channel, we're going to pay 10% of net receipts, but for gratis, we're going to pay 0% of net receipts. And if we were to add further channels, then they may inherit from the product defaults. So you can mix and match. You can add rates into different sub-channels and have a sort of family tree of that. I have kept it simple here because we haven't got any escalators here either. So it's 10% of net receipts, could be list price. And it could have a quantity escalator, which is where, say after the first 1,000, you're going to pay an extra 2%, and so on and so forth. Sale value is the same sort of thing, but for sales, it's for sort of currency receipts. Date escalator, you might pay a certain rate for the first year, but when we hit a particular date threshold, the rate might drop or rise for reasons. And if this was based on list price, then the discount escalator would be possible as well. So if we are selling products and it's at a 75% discount off of retail price as printed on the back of the book, then we may want to have a lower royalty because there's for your sales to go around. So all sorts of options there that you can mix and match and play with. But for now, just the idea that there are royalty rates on this contracts page is what I want to leave you with. Got some information about royalty statements, when we pay them, on what sort of, when we send them out, and on what sort of schedule. And then we get into the sort of scope of what we're actually licensing in terms of sales rights. So this is a straightforward one, world exclusive, and as you can imagine, this can get as complex as you like. Really, when we're licensing rights, we have to think across multiple dimensions, don't we? Geography, language within those geographies, including scripts. We have to think about time, how long are we licensing for, full term of copyright, 60 months, that sort of thing. And we have to consider format as well. Are we only licensing reprint rights in paperbacks, or is the licensee publisher permitted to publish in whatever form they like? Specificity saves so much bother further down the line, doesn't it? So sales rights is the geography part of that, I suppose. Here's some information about remittances. Advances are the promise to pay some money in advance of publication. Payments are the actual execution of that transaction through the bank. And payees are the people who are going to receive that money, and they can sometimes be the contributors to the work, they can sometimes be a representative agent or a literary estate, or a mishmash of all of those things. So payees can be added there and then divided up later. Some deductions. If this is going to be shipping into a very volatile market, then reserves against returns, perhaps for the first couple of royalty statement periods, would be a good idea. And any fees if you want to offset indexing fees and so forth against your royalties further down the line, then that's possible as well. But now we get to the bit of this page which is labelled contract wording. And this is the bit that's going to allow our PDF export to spark into life. So if I click on add contract template and all of that, you can see that I've got one template set up. And if I select that and I press save, and then I download our PDF, we are going to see words appear on the page. And so these words have appeared because they are clauses within a contract template, and I have applied it to this particular contract of this work. This is a very old address, so don't worry, I'm not doxing myself there. And so yes, so if you are disciplined enough to have a contract template that you insist everybody signs up to and it never changes, then happy days, you can attach this in the way I just did to the contract, and the words will appear, and that's all great. I don't think I've ever had that happen to me. I don't think I've ever had an instance where the first draft of the contract from anybody's side has been the one that we've ended up with. So I'm not going to choose that option for this particular contract. I'm going to scroll down a little further, and I'm going to look at contract specific clauses. So there's a couple of options here. The first one is that I can select a contract template to copy clauses from. And here is my starting point template yet again. And if I copy all of those clauses, the same words have appeared, wonderful, but now they are immediately editable, and those edits will only apply within the scope of this one particular contract about winter cats. So it's a really nice middle ground, isn't it? You have a template. It's the one that maybe you've derived from Clark's agreements or from a long history of, doing this yourself and knowing what you want your contracts to look like, or your in-house counsel may have insisted, and so on and so forth. But, you can use that and do minor or even major tweaks and additions and addenda. So maybe the best of both worlds. But certainly Consonance can attempt to enable whatever strategy you're coming up with and need to comply with. And so now I can see at this top one here, I've got a funny little widget here, and it says signed date, and that's within a couple of angle brackets. And if you remember back to the 1980s, this is a little bit like a mail merge. I mean, I know they still have them, but this is an old concept where we can insert tags of information into a contract clause, and Consonance will get the real data and put that in. So now if here's work title sitting happily in the prelim bit. So now if I look at the download PDF, then where it says prelim, the title has been inserted. Let me take out, there we go. And the title is Winter Cats. And so that data has been included into the body of a paragraph there. So really that's the essence of this that I wanted to make sure that you knew, that there's this sort of builder for the body of the contract here that you're going to be able to use to either fix down the clauses that you always use within your contracts, or to provide a little bit of flexibility. And if we just scroll down this to see how it goes, words, all from that template, can be all edited. There's the signatory line. Then we have a schedule inserted here. We haven't filled in much information on the page yet, but you fill that in, it appears here. And then we have the royalties put into another schedule again. So here's our base royalty rate of 10% net receipts for this particular ISBN. So yeah, so that's building up to be pretty nice, and hopefully walks that balance of malleability, but also control, so that you have some consistency across your entire list. These can be moved around, added, resorted, obviously deleted, all the usual things that you would need, and can be added to, with an entirely new option that can be inserted if you need to put in a clarificatory clause, or if you need to put in a break clause, or if the agent comes back with something that you haven't accommodated for within your template, and you're unlikely to want to insert it into your normal template, then great, here we can put that information in and add it just to this contract. So nice bit of flexibility there to be able to have. So that is drafting a contract, and we have been in Winter Cats, but before we leave this idea of drafting a contract, I would like to just go over to where those templates are set up, so that you can see where to start this whole adventure. And we're on our old friend, the main menu here, and we're going to go to the settings area. I could have typed contract template. Within settings and contracts, I can look at contract templates. And here is our individual anthology not delivered. So it's attached to 2 signed contracts. That means that it's not editable anymore. Because can you imagine the chaos if you were able to change the template that was feeding the clauses on live contracts? Not contracts where you'd copied the clauses over, but live contracts. So we sort of lock that down a little bit. But that's okay, because you can duplicate those. You can add you can add new templates willy-nilly, and add additional clauses. So let's just add a couple of clauses. You can give a little bit of formatting information. We can say, let's call it prelims again, where it is agreed that the work, and then we're going to say one of our interesting data tags. So the data tags are all available if you click this button, available data tags. And it's a little bit of a familiar interface from the custom report elements that we've been using on Excel spreadsheet exports, and also in our marketing material templates the last few weeks. But this time we're looking at the tags that are available to insert into any clause in a contract. And I mean, you can see the sorts of things that get included in contracts. Let's grab that work title from the bottom there. I can copy to clipboard, and I can paste in there is to be published, and hit save, and then we've got a nice clause ready to go on our main template. So that's all. That's all fine and dandy. These sorts of tasks tend to get done, at implementation stage or very sporadically. So I just wanted to remind you that setting up these contract templates exists in your settings area within Consonance. And if it has slipped your mind and you need to do a bit of light housekeeping, then go and have a look, see if you've got any templates that need a bit of sprucing, or that you can use to shave some time off of your day. So that is all good. Shaving time off the day, that's exactly what we want to do, isn't it? Right, so let us now go over to our PowerPoint, because we're going to go into the reporting spotlight. I should get a torch actually for this moment. I should have a lot more music and a lot more special effects, and then it wouldn't just be me shouting down the computer at you. But no, we don't have any of that. We just simply have a PowerPoint slide that says that the reporting spotlight this week is to find all unsigned contracts. I mean, you can immediately imagine, can't you, what the benefit to that sort of task is. You don't want to have contracts sitting unsigned for long periods of time. There needs to be momentum and pace for those that are under acquisition, and if any other contracts remain unsigned, then that bears scrutiny, like what's going on. Are they meant to be? Is there a problem? Insights will abound if we can find all of our unsigned contracts. So let us go to Consonance. And you guessed it, let's go to the reporting area. Where else would we go for the reporting spotlight? And we're going to go to New Report. Did I click New Report? New Report. And let's have a look. Let's see if we type in contract. Let's see what sort of things we get. And this is going to be a really straightforward search, because here we are, contract sign date. We could say is on or after a particular date, and that could be one of these wonderful relative to dates, or it could be a quick pick. Get me all of the contracts that were signed in the last month. Lovely. But what we're doing today is actually stopping before we get to the third option there. We're saying show me all of the contracts where the sign date is missing, is not present. Hit search. What do we got? Oh, got lots and lots and lots of products there. Thankfully, this is a demo account, so it would be probably a bit worrying if there were any signed contracts, wouldn't there? Because Feline Press is not actually a thing and is not going to sadly publish your manuscript. So these are all of the products that have a contract, that sit within a contract where the sign date is not present. What else could we look at? We could wrap that up into the work level, which makes a lot more sense. Work and contract is almost synonymous, isn't it? Like you contract for a sort of manuscript, and then within the body of the contract you say, oh, and we're going to do the paperback and the hardback and the ebook and the audiobook. So it makes sense to look at this readout at the work level, I think. And if you're using to-dos to keep track of things, then you could look at the to-dos for these particular works, and you could then filter it more down by if we go to to-do, name contains sign, then we could have a look at what that returns. And we've got a sign here in design, so be a bit more specific, I suppose. But you can say, well, if these are the works, and are there some to-dos that say get the contract signed, then who is responsible for that, and can I can I identify that and see more of a problem? So that can be a very useful search indeed, and so quick, isn't it? And I just wanted to remind you that anytime you do a search and you think, oh, that was actually quite good, I'll use that again, before navigating away from the page, click on the button that says Save this report and type a name for your report, and it will say something. You can write something like all unsigned contracts, and then save it. And then next time you need it, rather than having to go to reporting and, you know, create a new one and tab in, you've got your top search there ready to go, and then you can dive in. I mean, if any of these use sort of relative dates, like if the sign date was on or after this quarter, I mean, that's such a great report, isn't it? To come back and revisit that every now and again on a schedule that makes sense to you, but without having to sort of engage brain and carefully write these reports up. This is also the end point, the sort of payoff of raising a ticket to come and ask us. You know, pose your business situation to us. Say, you know, I'm trying to solve this particular problem. We'll send you back the reporting setup that we think would be fruitful. You save it, and then, you know, you don't have to sort of originate it yourself later. It's a living, breathing, useful thing that you can use time and time again. So yes, so saving reports is a thing that is worthwhile to do, and you can build up your own library of very meaningful and personal reports. Great. Well, that's the reporting spotlight. The torchlight swings away from us because we have found all of our unsigned contracts. Let's see what is next on the list. From our own correspondence, I mean, the request wasn't quite as pithy as how do I import royalty rates in bulk. It was more like, right, we're going to start using Consonance for royalties. Where do we start? And so one of the first things that one would do in this situation is think, well, what does your data look like at the moment, and how are we going to get this into Consonance? And I did cover this in a live stream fairly recently, and I think I cover it a bit on the demo, the special live stream that we did. But it doesn't hurt to, you know, have a quick look at it again, and then we'll maybe see it from a slightly different angle. And in fact, maybe, you know, if you think now, gosh, what's she going to do? Test yourself, see if you know what I'm going to do. So in Consonance, I'm going to go to the main menu, and I'm going to go to imports, because it's in imports that we can choose the sort of data that we're going to try and get into Consonance. So if I click on new import, I get that list, and we have variously looked at contact information, prices, products, sales, and also royalties. And royalties here is talking about the royalty rates that you pay in various circumstances. It's talking about the previous payments that you have made in the past. It's talking about any promises to pay, which in publishing we call advances, oftentimes. And it's talking about the payees, the people who are going to get those payments. So all of that data will exist in various places within your business. It can be a challenge to know where it is and to get it all into a shipshape condition. But that's one of the reasons why you're using Consonance, because you've identified you need everything in one place. Otherwise, it's difficult to find and difficult to relate it to each other. So this tends to be a one-off job. You don't tend to, I mean, you can, I suppose, but I wouldn't do it. You could, every 6 months, come to this page and upload a spreadsheet that you've been carefully building up over the course of the last few months. And if that workflow works for you, then that is completely valid. But I think that the real strength of Consonance comes across when everyone can trust that whatever data they see in there right now, today, is the truest representation of reality that we have as a company. And so, if there's a spreadsheet somewhere that's kind of squatting on data that only gets put into your system of record every now and again, then I just think that's like mental complexity, mental load, to think, oh yes, well, Consonance is fine for this, but I always have to remember da 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 da. So I would use this primarily at setup, prefer on my computer, primarily at setup, and then selectively if exciting adventures come along, like buying a new imprint, or somehow, needing to manage something in bulk. So you'd come to this page expecting to download the template, and you would see, gosh, there's no template to download. And that's because on an ad hoc basis like this, we, the team here, can generate a set of pre-populated templates. So rather than adding to your load of having to come up with the list of works and products and payees, we can say, well, here's what Consonance thinks you have right now anyway. So that's a useful starting point. And then all you have to do is match the ISBNs in that spreadsheet to the data in some other system that you're using, or match the IDs, or match on whatever data you have, or, heavens forfend, type it all in. But that at least gives you a starting point so that you don't have to come up with every piece of data from scratch. We are here to help, and we can get as much as we can into a spreadsheet to kick you off. And I'm just going to show you what that spreadsheet looks a bit like. This is LibreOffice, which is a bit like Excel. It says it's pre-populated, then we're able to see that. And when it's pre-populated, we would put all of the data into these first few columns. So you would see your records all down there. And then you would go through and you'd think, well, what other information do they need then? And you would go to our documentation site and you would have a good look at it. So you would look to see what we mean by net or retail. You'd look to see what we mean by escalator type. And the template comes with drop downs as well. You'd look to see what we mean by that sort of thing. So let's just hop over to the marketing website. Now, like we looked at last week, you can look at this exact content through your app. If you click on search documentation in the account area, then you're going to be able to search for this. But also you might want to send these pages to somebody who doesn't actually have a Consonance license, somebody in finance who is not going to be using Consonance beyond this initial stage. So I thought I'd show you where to find it on the regular internet. So you'd go to resources, user docs, you'd probably type in here actually, you'd do import ROI, and that whittles down your list to import contract royalties. And you would start to read what the requirements are. And there's, various preambles and, some worked examples of, if you recognise this sort of thing, then this is what you put in to the spreadsheet. So it goes into a lot of detail, hopefully plenty of interesting things for you to look at there. But I'm not going to read out a web page to you because in the moment it will be really, really useful and interesting. But before that moment arrives, it may possibly be a bit dry to just go through it all. It's like anything with like training or with learning new things, that you have to be motivated in that moment to really learn it. Otherwise it's just a fire hose that goes straight past you. So once you've read that documentation in a fascinated afternoon, you'll come back and populated your spreadsheet because you've managed to get it all from your existing spreadsheets and records and accounting systems and paper contracts and so forth. Once you've done that, you can come here and upload it. And it's a question of hitting browse to find your template. I haven't actually got one ready to go, so I won't I won't carry on doing it. There are other live streams where I did a bit more prep. And then once that's done, you would go to your the system would take you to the imports page, and you'd see if there are any problems, like any errors that prevent approval, or alternatively everything's fine. You've got a kind of a staging moment where you can look to see what you're about to import, then you can approve that import and it'll trundle away behind the scenes. So that is the sort of vague shape of how we get data from your legacy systems into something more structured like Consonance. That's the approach if you really are in that situation where a lot of the data is on paper or embedded in a PDF or in a lot of different spreadsheets that need careful work and auditing anyway. If everything is in a gorgeous sort of pre-packaged state, then there's plenty of other more automated ways where we can slurp your data into our database. But that will be on a case-by-case basis, and you can let us know what you've got and how we can best get it in. We're talking about anything from picking it up from an FTP location and parsing it. It might be in a CSV format, it might be in JSON, or there's our GraphQL API, which is enjoying quite a lot of interest at the moment. Actually, it's absolutely delightful to know that the level of technical capability within our clients and our potential clients is so high. There's a vast number of people who are very practiced and expert at reasoning with publishing like data, and it's an absolute privilege to get to work with them. So if the words GraphQL API mean anything to you, then cracking, get in touch for an API key and start seeing your data both in get and posting, mutating data within Consonance if you want. Great. Right, well, has that answered the question? What was the question? Importing royalty rates in bulk. Yes, I think we've had a look at that, and we have looked at this before, so just layering on experience. Right, what's next on the list? What's new? Good, excellent. So this is one of those things where I'm going to say this isn't ready yet. Don't go looking for it in your account. We haven't finished working on it, and I'm probably on holiday. Although actually by the time you see this, it might be live. Well, we'll just have to see, won't we? It's for the future gods to decide. Anyway, at some point in this vague time period, you're going to see a slight change on a licensed right deal. So earlier on, let's go to Consonance. Earlier on, we were looking on, let's go to Wintercats. We were looking on the contract, and I was going on and on and on about saying we're looking at a contract here, head contract between you and the author or agent. It's not the same as rights and permissions, which is different. And it is different. And it's a part of the system, I mean, you can see because the grades are all wrong. It's part of the system that we are now revisiting to make a bit better. And one of the aspects of that is giving many more levels of detail around the stage that a rights deal can be in. So this is so new that I haven't even built a link in the system yet to get us to the page that I want to show you. So it's very exciting, isn't it? I'm going to copy the link from there. I'm going to go to a new tab. I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to type with my human hands the URL, for goodness sake. And we're going to go and see the page where this sort of growing feature is happening. So this is a rights deal. Don't read anything into this page. Like I say, it's still all on the drawing board. But it contains, like the head contract, it contains the terms of what you've agreed, not now between you and the author or agent, but you and your sub-licensee. So, this is why we go to Frankfurt or the London Book Fair, so that we can sell French rights for a 5-year period in the French language and the French territory in this particular work. And so that would be a licensed right, and it would be a licensed right that's a translation, and we would say that this is the language and the territory is France and other territories, and this is the duration, and so on and so forth. You know how rights deals work. But the bit that I want to mention is the rights deal stage. So looking at this part of the page, we can see the current stage, and then we can see a history of the deal stages. And I'm mentioning this now because the first stage for us in building this feature is this page. We're going to be able to see the current stage and all of the stages that it's been through. The next part of this process will be adding this into our reporting area. So then you're going to be able to see all sorts of very, very interesting reporting on how many deals are in such and such a stage, how long have they languished there for, what's the next action on them, all of the normal things that the very hard-working rights teams do. But this is the part of the exercise of sort of building the attributes within Consonance that are going to enable that rich reporting. And it's one of the great things about having our exciting reporting functionality that brings together so many different records from around the system. Earlier today we looked at we built a report and we used a contract element, didn't we? Whether the sign date was present or not. Then we represented the results of that using works and products and to-dos. So, the to-dos that belong to the works that fulfill those conditions. And being able to build these reports out, knowing that you can pull data from across your operations, it's super cool. So that's one of the reasons why we're improving the rights deals area at the moment. So if you go to your account at the moment, there's only a handful of stages, not really enough to get that granular level of insight. So I'm going to click edit here and we're going to see the sorts of things that I'm talking about. As it stands, we've grouped the stages that we know about into 3 main areas: open, deal done, and closed. And closed is things like, the deal is over for one of the very many following reasons. It's expired, or we just couldn't come to an agreement, or we thought that we were going to be interested but we're not. So plenty of closed reasons, which is fascinating because then you can target your inquiries so much better next time round. If you know that 6 people on your hit list are just not interested in fantasy, and you're capturing that information so you get that insight, then you can save everyone time and focus elsewhere. Deal done is a variety of stages. We've accepted the offer, and then they've sent us a contract which we're looking at, but we've returned it for revision, and now they've sent us the signed one after we've been around that loop a few times, and we have now sent the signed contract back, and so on and so forth. So really nice level. We're trying to go there for the level of specificity that is useful without you having to change status every 3 seconds as your day wears on. And then we have open as well. So this is really interesting, isn't it? Because, being able to say, well, I've sent an inquiry, and of course that's to many, multiple potential respondents. So being able to track, in bulk through reporting, how many people we have sent an inquiry to, and now we've received interest, and now, oh, actually, somebody really exciting has come back, so we've granted them exclusive review for a period of time. Being able to keep all of those balls juggling is going to be pretty cool. So that's coming pretty soon. This first stage of this, the ability to set the current rights deal stage. And I wanted to show you as well how it works. So let's say we've received an option request, marvellous, and we're going to grant that option. We're going to grant an exclusive option, very exciting. So I change the stage to grant an exclusive option, hit save, and then right there, the history has appeared. It was receive option request, and today, less than a minute, granted exclusive option. Fantastic. But using computers being what it is, sometimes we think it's quite nice if you can edit history. So it could be that you went to Frankfurt, you took lots and lots of paper notes, you're being very diligent, and you're sitting down and you're typing all of your 5 days worth of great efforts into Consonance. And the moment when you change the stage isn't necessarily the moment when the stage happened. So we are providing the ability to edit and to bring this back to the date that you want to use for the most useful reporting. So I might end up changing the word history there, because that's a little bit generous to the potential for this feature. It's more, however you want to be able to interrogate your data, let's help you get that data together so that it becomes fruitful for you. You can also see that there's no delete option for the current stage. That would be a bit odd to remove something entirely from history when it is still your current reality. So a few little subtleties there. But, this is the What's New segment of this live stream. And so the nature of it is that it is still really on the drawing board, waiting to come out in beta. Now would be a great time to shout and say, if only you'd put such and such a stage on that drop down, then life would be complete. So definitely, if this piques any interest, then let us know through the usual channel, support@Consonance.app, and we'll build it in at this early stage. But you can also start to sort of think, okay, well, Consonance is going to allow me to cut across my data using rights deal elements as well as all of the other stuff I've seen. So hopefully, we want to let you know these things when they're still patently on the cutting board, even though they're not quite done yet, so that you know what's coming down the line, and so that you can get a chance to have a say if it's of interest to you and if you want to help refine it. Don't want you to have to add to your list of tasks, help Consonance write software. But if this happens to correlate with what you're interested in and what you're going to be working on, then we have let you know. We have incited you into our roadmap. Incited you. That is not a word. That's okay. That is all right. We have looked at what's new. Power move. This is going to be probably a little bit dull given some of the other exciting power moves we have thrown over the last few weeks. But we were talking about contracts, weren't we? And there's a lot of data that can go in a contract. And I wanted to make sure that you knew that you can stamp out a copy of a work and it will include contract data if you want it to. So let's go and see how that works. Here we are back on Winter Cats. We did add some information to the contract. That's all fine. Let's say that we want to do Springtime Cats. So imaginative. And we want it to be almost exactly the same as Winter Cats. So this is a prime candidate for duplication. I'm going to click on the Add New button, top right, and I get a quite a range of options. I can add a product to this work, which would add another, we've already got a paperback, but we could add a hardback, or we could add an ebook or some other type of product to this work. We could, and that would be sort of completely plain and vanilla and not have any information associated with it. We could duplicate a product on this work. So if we've already got a paperback, we could duplicate that and then turn it into the ebook or the audiobook. Even better, if we had set up the audio download, the WAV format, then we could duplicate the audio download product and turn that into the CD or the cassette or the some other format of audiobook, and then all of the duration information would copy across, all of the dimensions of the case and everything that could copy across. So horses for courses, whatever you're trying to do, there's probably a correct option to choose here. But the one we're thinking about today is duplicating the work entirely. We are not adding anything to Winter Cats. We are creating a work called Springtime Cats. And so I will click duplicate work. And it's nice that I get something pop up that gives me a bit of a staging post, so that I can see, okay, what exactly are we going to be doing when we hit duplicate. So I could hit duplicate right now, click on the duplicate button, and that would be fine. That would generate a new work, and the work would be called Duplicated from Winter Cats. But it's going to have to be changed at some point, so why not do it now? Springtime Cats. Great. And I can click read what gets duplicated as standard to see the things that are going to copy across to that new work from this Winter Cats work, no matter what. And I can also add in some other data. So there's a lot of metadata things. Fairly recently, we've changed this up so that subjects includes your in-house subjects as well. Was that for our own correspondence? Maybe it was. It certainly was in real life. Somebody kindly wrote and said, it would be so great if we could put in-house subjects on this list. So that has happened. Good. But the one that we're interested in is royalty data. So check royalty data. And now we can click duplicate. And that is a way to get all of that contract stuff over into this new Springtime Cats work. So quite a lot of work doesn't need to happen now that we've been able to duplicate and choose the refined sort of data that we want to be able to get that in. Super duper. So that's quite a modest power move, but a power move nevertheless. And if you've been tasked to set up a 20 work strong front list after an acquisition meeting, then that does come into its own, and you can hammer through the task list. Quite cool. I think we're at the end of our live stream agenda for this week. And as I say, this is going to you're going to be watching this. The earliest you'll be watching it is, I think, a week tomorrow. So maybe the rights deals will be a little bit closer to being real, so you can go and see how that's coming along. But it's a lot of work, so no promises are being made. Definitely, if you like what you see, though, and you want to have input into it, then excellent time to be asking us. It'll be in beta for ages and ages, so there's no hurry. You haven't missed the boat, I'm sure. So we're always keen to hear of any improvements that can be made to just get these features on point, perfect for you. Because Frankfurt is fast approaching actually. We're August 2025 at the moment, and then when Frankfurt's over, then it'll be London and plenty of other fairs around the world in all sorts of different areas. Remember that we have got the marketing material templates now, so perhaps you might want to look at that sort of thing in good time, in case you're otherwise lumbered with doing the rights guide. You can set up your template exactly as you want it. You can include licensed right information. So yeah, see how you go. It'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Remember, it's multi-work and or single work. You can export it into PDF. And I mean, imagine this. You could generate a fresh rights guide on day 3 of the fair, having done your data entry, that's bang up to date, because you've got one version of the truth. Perhaps a little ambitious to keep Consonance completely up to date whilst Frankfurt's going on. I think that might be a stretch goal, but in principle, what a great idea. Great. Well, like and subscribe, please. I do love to see the cheerful thumbprints, and it shows me that people are watching that aren't just, finding us from the internet after watching videos about taking apart a carburettor, which seems to be very popular at the moment on our list. Can't explain that. Right, have a lovely week or couple of weeks or however long it is till I actually see you, and I shall see you